Many of us picture Brazil as, well, a country of incredible visual diversity, right?
Yeah.
A vibrant mix of cultures and peoples.
Hmm.
We see the stunning imagery of carnival, uh, the varied faces in a bustling city like Rio. But for those of us who really want to understand that kaleidoscope, our deep dive today asks, what are the precise historical and genetic threads that actually wove this truly unique human tapestry?
Yeah,
Why do Brazilians look so astonishingly different from each other?
it's a profound question, definitely. And the answer, as you've hinted, it goes far beyond just surface appearances.
Right.
We're talking about a deep story, centuries in the making, woven from mass migrations, rich cultural exchanges, and, well, an unparalleled degree of genetic mixing. Our mission in this deep dive is really to pull apart those threads, the history, the demographic shifts, the genetic science.
All of it.
Yeah, all of it, to give you a comprehensive understanding of how Brazil became this human mosaic.
Okay, let's unpack this fascinating topic then. We're diving into material that reveals how Brazil became one of the most genetically diverse countries on Earth.
Yeah.
A place where the human spectrum truly comes alive in ways that honestly continually surprise. So to truly grasp Brazil's extraordinary diversity, we first have to journey back, way back to its historical foundations.
Absolutely.
Our sources are incredibly clear that there were three primary groups that formed the genetic bedrock of this nation. Can you walk us through who these foundational groups were?
Sure. The first, of course, were the indigenous peoples. Before the Portuguese even set foot on Brazilian soil in 1500.
Right, way before.
Millions of indigenous people thrived there, spread across hundreds of tribes like the Tupi, the Guarani, Yanomami. They carried, distinct features, almond-shaped eyes, copper-brown skin, straight black hair.
Okay.
Then came the Europeans, specifically the Portuguese colonizers starting in the 16th century. They introduced lighter skin, often taller stature, and a broader range of hair and eye colors. European traits.
Got it.
But the most dramatic and impactful demographic change, without a doubt, was driven by the transatlantic slave trade. Brazil imported an estimated 4.8 million enslaved Africans between the 16th and 19th centuries.
4.8 million, that's a truly immense number.
It is.
Does that sheer scale uniquely shape Brazil's racial dynamics compared to, say, the U.S., which received a smaller, though still significant number of enslaved people?
It absolutely does. That staggering figure, more than any other country in the Americas, it meant a profound and sustained genetic contribution from diverse African populations.
From where, specifically?
Primarily West and Central Africa. This laid the foundation for a much broader and frankly more complex blend of African and European ancestries than you might see elsewhere. And it continues to resonate in Brazil's demographic profile today, massively.
Wow, so even after those massive initial migrations, Brazil didn't just settle down genetically, it kept pulling people in.
Exactly.
And here's where it gets really interesting, because beyond these foundational waves, Brazil continued to be, well, an absolute magnet for populations from all over the world.
That's spot on. Following those initial centuries, Brazil experienced several significant later waves of immigration.
Cool.
We're talking huge numbers of Europeans arriving from Italy, Germany, Spain, Poland, especially late 19th, early 20th centuries, people making new opportunities.
Okay.
And then you also had smaller but culturally and genetically really significant waves of Japanese, Lebanese, and Syrian immigrants.
Huh. I didn't realize the Middle Eastern influence was that noted.
Oh, yes. It all adds up. This relentless, centuries-long influx of incredibly diverse populations just continually added new genetic features to the mix. It truly solidified Brazil's identity as this human mosaic unlike anywhere else on the planet. Each group left an indelible mark, enriching the genetic pool further and further.
So with this incredible ongoing historical blending, how does all of that manifest in the physical appearance of Brazilians today?
Right.
Let's dive into some of the most striking examples outlined in our sources. Maybe we can start with skin tone. That seems to tell a very clear story.
Indeed, it really does. Scientists have found that skin tone in Brazil varies across the widest spectrum in the Americas.
The widest.
Yes, it's truly remarkable, almost like a gradient from one end of the human color palette to the other.
And the census data really brings this home for us, doesn't it? It shows that 42% of Brazilians identify as white, a significant 47% identify as pardo, which translates roughly to mixed race.
Right, brown or mixed.
And 9% identify as black, with smaller percentages identifying as indigenous or Asian. That nearly 50% pardo category alone It just speaks volumes about the level of
It
mixing.
really does. And if we go deeper into the genetics, a 2015 study offered a truly fascinating insight. The average Brazilian genome, get this, is about 62% European, 21% African, and 17% indigenous.
62% European.
Wow. What's striking about that figure is how deeply it underlines that genetic reality can sometimes be less visible than we assume on the surface, you know?
Yeah.
Especially when you consider the visual diversity we just described.
That's a great point.
And this balance crucially shifts dramatically by region.
How so?
Well, in the South, for instance, European ancestry clearly dominates. That leads to lighter skin tones being more common there. But move to the Northeast, and African ancestry is much stronger, producing darker skin tones generally.
Okay.
And then up in the Amazon, indigenous roots are most visible, with coppery tones prevailing among the population. It really maps onto the history.
That 62% European figure is quite high, as you said. It makes me wonder, how does this incredible genetic blend coexist with the societal narrative?
Ah, yes.
Brazil has long promoted this idea of a racial democracy, suggesting that color didn't really matter socially. But the sources reveal a more complex picture around that concept, don't they?
They certainly do. While the idea of a racial democracy was historically powerful and maybe aspirational for some,
Right?
researchers show that colorism unfortunately persists. Lighter-skinned Brazilians are statistically more likely to hold wealth and political power.
Hmm.
Now, we're just relaying these findings from the source material for your information, obviously not endorsing any viewpoint. But it's important to highlight that while the genetic mixing is extensive, its societal implications are still a topic of ongoing discussion and, frankly, challenge in Brazil.
Understood. Okay, so beyond skin tone, another striking visual cue of Brazil's complex tapestry lies in its eye colors.
Yes.
Expert, how does ancestry influence this particular feature?
Well, most Brazilians, around 75 to 80%, have brown eyes,
Okay.
which directly reflects their predominant indigenous and African ancestry. Those are the ancestral colors that dominated for millennia there.
But here's the contrast, and it's quite stark, as the sources point out. European immigration introduced light eyes blue, green, hazel at unusually high rates for Latin America.
That's right. About 15 to 20% of Brazilians have hazel, green, or blue eyes.
15 to 20%.
Yeah, and you see this especially pronounced in the South, where that German, Italian, and Polish heritage is particularly strong.
Right, where the later European ways settled more.
Exactly. And the visual impact of this is truly fascinating when you travel around. In cities like Porto Alegre, down south, you might see tall, blonde-haired, blue-eyed Brazilians walking alongside others, standard European phenotypes.
Okay.
Yet you go to the vibrant streets of Salvador in the northeast, Bahia, you'll encounter hazel-eyed Afro-Brazilians who beautifully carry both African and European lineages.
Wow.
And of course, deep in Amazonian villages, deep brown eyes dominate, reflecting centuries of unbroken indigenous roots. It's a literal spectrum playing out geographically.
That's a powerful illustration. Just amazing variety.
Yeah.
So we've covered the visible spectrum of skin and eye color, but this genetic tapestry also impacts other traits we might not immediately connect to heritage, like height and build. What do our sources tell us here?
Well, our sources indicate that the average Brazilian man stands about 5'8" or 173 centimeters.
Okay.
And the average woman about 5'4" or 162 centimeters. Now, these figures are pretty close to global averages.
Right.
But what's really important to note, again, is the dramatic regional variation. This isn't a homogeneous average. It's an average pulled from a very wide range.
That variation is key, isn't it? So what explains these regional differences in height and build? Is it just genetics?
It's a combination, really. Genetics and environmental factors like nutrition over generations.
Oh, okay.
Southern Brazilians, for example, with their strong German and Italian ancestry, they're often noticeably taller. That reflects both European genetics and, historically, maybe different dietary patterns.
Makes sense.
Northeastern populations, which often have stronger African and indigenous roots, tend to average a shorter stature. Indigenous Amazonian groups, in particular, often display more compact builds, which are beautifully adapted to life in the tropical forest environment.
Wait, adaptation.
And Afro-Brazilians frequently carry what scientists call mesomorphic builds.
Mesomorphic.
Yeah, basically characterized by broad shoulders and muscular density. It's a trait often linked genetically to West African ancestry.
It's also striking, the sources mention, that studies show wealthier Brazilians tend to be taller.
Yes.
That's a powerful point, highlighting how even social inequality can end up shaping physical traits over generations, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It's not just the genes you inherit, but the circumstances that allow those genes to be expressed.
Precisely. access to better nutrition, consistent health care. These correlate strongly with socioeconomic status, and they play a significant role in achieving one's genetic height potential. It's another layer of complexity in the story.
Definitely. Okay, so what about hair? That's another very visible marker.
Yes, and Brazil's diversity is vividly visible there too. Approximately 40% of Brazilians have straight hair,
No, 40%.
which is a common trait among both European and indigenous populations, remember?
Right.
Then around 45% have wavy or curly hair, reflecting those wonderfully blended ancestries we've been discussing. The largest group, really,
The Pardo influence again, perhaps.
could be linked, yeah. And roughly 15% carry tightly coiled textures, rooted deeply in African heritage, so you see the full range.
And these various lineages also clearly manifest in facial features, completing the visual story. What kind of variety can we expect to see across Brazil there?
Well, you'll observe features often associated with European ancestry, like narrower noses, sharper jawlines, maybe lighter hair, often in European-descended families, particularly in the South.
Okay.
Then there are features like fuller lips, rounder noses, and curly hair, often seen in Afro-Brazilian communities. And among indigenous groups, high cheekbones, almond-shaped eyes, and straight black hair are very common distinctive features.
But the key is the mix, right?
Absolutely. What truly defines Brazil is that many Brazilians show combinations that cross these categories entirely. They completely defy any simple, singular stereotype. They are truly living, walking examples of profound genetic blending.
Okay, so beyond this general blending, let's maybe zoom in for a moment on the powerful, enduring legacies of specific foundational groups.
Good idea.
Because their identities remain incredibly strong even today, influencing not just appearance, but culture, society,
Yeah.
everything.
Definitely. Let's start with the indigenous legacy. Despite centuries of colonization, disease, displacement,
Terrible history there.
a very difficult history, yes. But Brazil still remains home to about 900,000 indigenous people today,
900,000.
spread across 305 distinct tribes and speaking, incredibly, 274 different languages.
Wow, the linguistic diversity too.
It's astonishing. And in remote Amazonian communities particularly, indigenous features often remain very distinct. That copper skin, dark eyes, straight black hair, often a shorter stature. These populations maintain a powerful connection to their ancestral heritage.
What's truly fascinating here, though, is what the genetic studies show about the wider population.
Yes.
That even among urban Brazilians, people living in cities, indigenous ancestry is surprisingly widespread.
That's right.
Genetic studies show that millions of people who identify as white or Pardo as mixed still carry indigenous DNA.
It's a hidden legacy, exactly. Often visible maybe only in subtle features like cheekbone structure or particular skin undertones.
A powerful, almost unspoken connection to the land's first inhabitants, still present in the genes.
Absolutely. Now, shifting to Afro-Brazilian identity, Brazil has the largest African-descended population outside of Africa itself.
The largest.
Yes. Over 100 million people of African ancestry. It's huge.
Incredible.
And Afro-Brazilians, as we touched on, display an incredibly wide range of features. Dark skin, curly hair, tall builds, even diverse eye colors, largely due to centuries of intermarriage and the diverse origins of the enslaved populations brought over.
And it's not just genetics here either, is it? Afro-Brazilian culture. Things like the pulsating rhythms of samba, the grace and power of capoeira,
Oh, definitely.
and the spiritual depth of religions like candomblé, these have profoundly shaped the national identity.
Absolutely foundational. It's woven into the very fabric of the country, influencing everything from music and dance to food and religion. You can't imagine Brazil without it. But while it's a rich cultural legacy, it's also important, as the sources compel us to acknowledge the ongoing challenges.
Right.
Afro-Brazilians, despite their profound contributions, also face systemic discrimination.
What do the sources say specifically?
Well, economic surveys consistently show that Black Brazilians earn significantly less, around 40% less on average, than white Brazilians.
40% less.
Yeah, which understandably fuels important and ongoing debates about inequality, often tied, consciously or unconsciously, to appearance and race. Again, we're simply relaying this information from the source material, just providing you with the full picture presented.
Understood. It's a complex reality.
Yeah.
So with all this incredible diversity, this continuous blending, it naturally raises a question, one that sparks constant debate both inside and outside the country.
Mm-hmm.
Is there such a thing as a typical Brazilian look? I'm really curious to hear what the sources say about those perceptions?
It's really interesting how perceptions vary so widely. Some foreigners, for instance, often imagine Brazilians as, tall, tan, athletic.
The beach stereotype.
Exactly. A perception largely shaped by international media featuring beach culture, carnival images, maybe football stars.
All right.
Others might assume Brazil is predominantly black, perhaps comparing it incorrectly to some African nations based on the large Afro-descendant population number, but that doesn't capture the whole mix either.
And the debate is even sharper inside Brazil itself, isn't it?
Yeah.
I imagine there's a tension between celebrating the mix and recognizing specific identities.
Precisely. Inside Brazil, some argue quite strongly that there is no typical look.
Because of the mixing.
Exactly, because Brazil is fundamentally a nation of mixing, a true melting pot. That is the typical look, the variety.
Okay, that's one view.
But then others argue quite compellingly that Brazilian media, TV, advertising, fashion often privileges European features.
Lighter skin, straight hair.
Yes. Which inadvertently underrepresents Afro-Brazilians and indigenous people in popular culture. And that creates a skewed image, internally and externally, of who Brazilians really are.
That's particularly visible, the sources note, in things like global beauty contests. Brazil is famous for its models,
Right.
many of whom are fair-skinned, tall, and light-eyed, often from the South.
Yes, that pattern exists.
And this truly raises an important question. Critics say this creates a false stereotype. It effectively erases the broader, richer diversity of Brazil's actual population. It's almost like an external projection that doesn't fully capture the internal reality we've been discussing.
Exactly. It simplifies a complex reality into a narrow, often Eurocentric ideal, which then, of course, feeds back into those internal debates about representation and identity. It's a cycle.
Yeah, I can see that. So looking ahead then, what does the future hold for this unique blend of humanity in Brazil?
Well,
Demographers predict Brazil's diversity will only continue to deepen, becoming even more complex and, dare I say, even more vibrant. Is that right?
the trends are very clear and rather profound, actually. Intermarriage rates are remarkably high in
Was
Brazil.
I?
More than 1/3 of all marriages are interracial or interethnic, 1 out of 3.
Wow.
So the blending isn't slowing down. If anything, it's accelerating.
Okay.
And migration, while maybe not on the scale of the past, continues to introduce new ancestries from around the globe. Researchers believe that by, say, 2050, most Brazilians will be so genetically blended.
So mixed.
So mixed, exactly. That the physical categories we use today, like white or black or even a pardo, might become even less meaningful, more like points on a very smooth continuum.
That level of blending is just astounding to think about. Does this ongoing mixing bring about any new debates or concerns?
It does.
I mean, some might worry about cultural identities being diluted, while others could see it purely as a strength.
Both viewpoints absolutely exist. Some indeed worry that this intense, ongoing mixing could potentially erase distinct cultural identities over time. A loss of specific heritage, maybe?
That's a valid concern for some.
Yeah. But on the other hand, many argue that it actually strengthens Brazil's unity. It proves that the nation truly thrives on its incredible variety. It's seen as a testament to Brazil's unique capacity for integration, for creating something new from the mix.
And scientists even suggest there's a biological advantage to all this, don't they?
Right.
Something about genetic diversity improving resilience.
Yes. That's a fascinating biological insight that comes up in the research.
How does that actually manifest? Better health.
Potentially, yes. Genetic diversity, broadly speaking, is linked to improved resilience to disease. Populations with more variation have more tools in their genetic toolkit, if you will.
Okay.
It also helps with enhanced adaptation to changing environments, shifts in diet, climate, new pathogens. So populations with greater genetic variation are generally better equipped biologically to resist new diseases and simply thrive in a wider range of conditions. Brazil's deep genetic pool could be a source of significant biological strength for its people in the long run.
So wrapping this up then, what does this all mean for you, our listener?
Yeah.
This deep dive into Brazil, it reveals a powerful truth, I think. What makes Brazil's people look so different is this incredible story. Indigenous survival, African strength and resilience, European migration, and truly global blending over centuries. It's a story written in skin tones from ivory to ebony,
Yes.
in eye colors from the deepest brown to blue, in hair textures from tightly coiled to straight. It's a living, breathing testament to human history happening right now.
And the core takeaway, I think, is this. Brazil is not a single face. It's truly a kaleidoscope of faces, all moving together in rhythm.
That's a great image.
Imagine, for instance, the vibrant scene of Carnival in Salvador again. You'd see Afro-Brazilian dancers with dark skin and curly hair performing right beside mixed-race drummers with caramel skin and wavy hair. A blonde-haired samba singer with green eyes might be belting out a tune nearby, and perhaps indigenous groups, maybe from the Amazon, marching proudly in their traditional dress.
All different.
They all look distinctly different, absolutely. Yet they are all undeniably, passionately Brazilian, united in that moment.
So next time you picture Brazil, maybe don't imagine a single face.
Right.
Instead, imagine a carnival of faces diverse, mixed, unique, but somehow united under one flag. It truly reminds us, I think, that difference isn't necessarily division. It is, in fact, a source of incredible beauty and resilience.
Well said.
A profound lesson for us all, really.